Folks, welcome back to the Get Off Our Lawn show. My name is Dave Jackson, coming to you from my man cave here in Western Pennsylvania. Down there in North Carolina is Mr. Dave Seymour with the only beer that has been inducted into NATO. And we have with us, I'm very happy to have this guy with us. We have Mr. Roy Abbey, one of my old bowling buddies.
Yes, sir.
Class in 1980, back here. He's with us on the podcast, folks. Welcome, Roy.
Thank you. Glad to be on your lawn.
Oh, man. We appreciate you being on our lawn.
We appreciate you playing along with us.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm just setting things up because I'm behind.
Yeah, he's just a little behind. So Roy.
Yes.
Roy, typically, if you haven't watched any of our prior episodes, typically we just ask you some simple questions such as, what did you do since we graduated high school? When we got off that lawn and got our diplomas, what happened to Roy Abbey up to this point? Fill us in. People want to know what happened to Roy.
Well, the first thing was I was still working on the Prince farm. Of course, I was doing that in high school, and I worked there for 7 years. So,
say that again. The Prince farm.
Yep. I don't know if you guys remember Cheryl Prince and Judy Prince.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl graduated 79.
Okay.
Judy, I think, graduated 82. But they were just down the road about a quarter of a mile across the field. And so as a little kid, I used to ride my bike down across the field and get in the way and underfoot and thought I was trying to be a help. And by the time I was 14, they were not only feeding me, they were paying me.
Wow.
So, and it was a dairy farm, and I absolutely loved it. Work outside all day, throw hay bales around, cows, milk them. I didn't do the milking, but I'd help feed. So I done that till the last girl got married. Then I realized I wasn't going to get the farm, and I knew I couldn't afford to buy it. So it was time to move on.
So could I ask you a question about that? Where did you live in Dryden?
Well, if you remember where Tweetman's Halfway House used to be on Route 13.
Yeah.
And the drive-in theater.
Yeah.
If you went up Ringwood Road, a quarter of a mile, we were the first house on the right going up through.
Up on Ringwood, okay.
Yep.
I'm familiar with that location.
Yeah. And there's an outdoor go-kart track down there now where the old dirt racetrack used to be.
Yeah, right across from Tweetman's.
Yep.
Because Tweetman's turned into like a bike shop or something like that for a while, right?
Yeah, and then it was a bakery shop, and then it was in rough shape, and then they got it into a RC car shop.
Okay.
I guess there's an indoor track in there. I haven't been in it in years.
So the building is still standing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it got pretty rough for a while, but they did some repair work. So
very cool. Okay, sorry to interrupt. I was just trying to get my bearings on where, what, and where.
Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So my after the farm, I got a part-time job at PNC and worked as they called it a porter. I was basically a custodian.
Mm-hmm.
Worked there for 3 years and 9 months, and then went to Ithaca College. Started January 25th, 87, Super Bowl Sunday.
And what did you go to school for at Ithaca College?
Oh, I didn't go to school. I went to work.
Oh, okay.
I started working there as a custodian, third shift, which was a bear. But after a year and a half, I got on days. I got to be a lead man and help, deliver supplies and do special details and a lot of the grunt work and the work that nobody else wanted to do. I'd go do it. And I enjoyed that. And then I got on the moving crew after 10 or 11 years of being a custodian. We did we did special events. We moved furniture, moved student furniture, office furniture, moved offices, whole departments, did the trash for a while, did the recycling.
And this is all with Ithaca College.
Yeah, I stayed right there till I became disabled, and I'd still be there working if Bones would let me, but they say no. And a lot of my life, I've realized, has revolved around the auto.
Oh,
Back when I was just a kid, early at working at PNC, I had a demolition derby car, an old Cadillac, kept breaking heads.
Uh-huh.
So I decided when it was time to part company with it, I had a guy that wanted to drive. I wasn't interested in driving, but I had the car, so we got it prepped. And then we had another car, so I was going to take the engine out of the Caddy and put it in one of Mom and Dad's old cars that they were getting rid of because Dad took the motor out for his truck. And I met a woman at a friend's house, and there was an instant attraction, and we were together about 4.5 years. But it was a tumultuous relationship. It finally went south, and we parted company.
Yeah.
And I don't begrudge her anything. And then for a while, I stayed single and got away from the demolition derby stuff. And I made an expensive mistake. One night I went down to Shangri-La and Owego, NASCAR sanctioned racetrack, and watched the races.
Okay.
And I'm a Mopar guy. So they had a Richard Petty lookalike for sale.
oh,
Well, after a short period of time, I owned the Richard Petty lookalike.
oh, wow.
And it was a very evil driving car.
What does that mean, evil driving?
Well, when you go into the corner, your elbows were up and you were sawing the steering wheel and you were stabbing the brake and the throttle, trying to get the car around the corner. It didn't corner real well.
I admire a guy who uses stabbing and sawing to describe what goes on inside a car.
And it happened a lot around each corner.
Saw.
Oh, elbows up, Dave. It was
Elbows
it
up.
was
Yeah,
mad.
elbows up.
Oh, it was mad sawing.
That's great.
And they tried building left side weight in the car. They tried an experiment, but it actually made the car worse. So, and I raced for 10 years down there.
You were a driver.
Oh yeah, absolutely loved the speed.
Yeah.
The closeness of it,
Mm-hmm.
the beating and banging. Had a lot of fun with it,
Yeah.
but it was expensive. You race blacktop, it's big money.
Yeah.
Because you really need 4 new tires every week.
Ah.
And that was a $400 expense, and the purse was $375 if you won.
So you do have love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
passion. Just so after I'd met my wife, and the first time she went down to the racetrack with me, I destroyed the car.
Oh, that's a good impression. Nice impression, Roy. Good
Yeah.
job.
First impression was,
You're a horrible driver. Why would I go out with you?
Yeah.
well, it wasn't really all my fault, but I contributed to it. A rookie, I'd been running for 3 or 4 years, and a rookie it was his first season, and we got together during a heat race and to see if you qualify, because there was more cars than places to start. They started 26, and there was, I don't know, probably 40 cars. We got together, and he was a little upset with me, and we both got in the feature, and I started dead last. Usually the opening night, you go into 1 and 2 and somebody turns the car around, and then there's a big pile up. So being last, I figured, well, there's no harm in laying back. They didn't spin out. So on lap 2, I figured, they're going to spin out. Nope. Lap 3, I went into the corner just hard as I could drive her in, and on the way out, they spun.
No.
So there was debris on the track, different places, and you could have hustled the car through. It would have been close, bumper and fenders and stuff laying on a track. Well, rookie in front of me got panicked and turned his car sideways, plugged the only hole I had, so I turned my car sideways, and we came together again. And he went, so I stayed on the track. Yeah, a couple laps later, I come, and my brakes were getting hot and fading. So I figured, well, I'll be smart, just let anybody by, and guys will knock themselves out, and I'll finish further up in the money. Well, he got to me and gave me a little bump, which was fine. I knew it was coming. And my car went sideways a little bit, and the right rear axle snapped off. And I ran over my own back tire.
Oh.
So it stood on the front wheels, went down the straightaway on the front. And when it came down, that framework all just laid off sideways. So it destroyed the car. But that was the first time my wife had seen me race. So she was she was only girlfriend at the time, panicked.
Yeah.
Which I can't blame her.
So let me ask you a question. How fast were you going when this occurred?
At least 70, because the track average was 90 miles an hour. And so they figured we were doing about 110 going into the corner and 70 or so coming out.
Coming out of the corner. Okay.
Yeah. So I was going in, I was kind of going in the corner. So I was, probably around 70 when he clipped me. And she stood up on the front wheels. I looked out the windshield. All I could see was a concrete wall, and went, oh, this is going to hurt. This is going to hit a ton. And it did. When you race with a 5-point harness, you pull it just as tight as you can get it. Well, when the car came down on the track, full face helmet, I could see my seat belts. Oh. My back compressed, so it hurt.
Oh.
So anyway, that was the end of that car. And in the meantime, we were in the process of getting married. So race car had to wait for a couple of years.
Did you get hurt because of that wreck?
Yeah. That one and another one. I got knocked out of the ballpark one night. They only had a concrete wall in the front straightaway, protect the fans.
Yeah.
So you could slide out in the grass out into the field and be all right. Well, going in 3 and 4 one night, well, I actually started coming out of 2. 3 car was sideways. The 4 car shot under him. I drove my car to the outside, gave me the best angle into the corner. And when I went into the corner, middle of the corner, bang. And a 3,700-pound Dodge Charger was in the air, did a full 360 right in the air. Wow. So when he hit me, the old helmet and neck, I could hear my neck popping.
Okay.
Yep, the car did a 360 in the air, and it gets dead quiet. When the tires come off the ground, it's dead quiet. And then it came down, and neck snapped the other way, and out of the ballpark I went. But we finished the race. Of course, that bent things in the car. That was before I destroyed it. So that car just was an evil car to drive. And I had one win down there in a special event race. So they called it Silver Dollar Race. I got lucky. They put cards in a hat. You drew whatever you drew. That was your starting point. This was for all the guys that didn't finish in the top 10 and featured. So I got lucky. I drew the ace. Fastest car. I got lucky. He drew the very last spot. So we ran past curfew, which was another lucky thing on my part. The last place car was driven by Officer Gary Helmers, and he finished beside me when we got the checkered flag, but he finished behind me, or back of me a little bit. And I had to pull kind of an Earnhardt move on him. He got up beside me in a corner, and I had to ease the throttle down and get the back tires spinning so the rear end of the car would swing sideways, and he moved up. Well, he wasn't out of the groove yet because the track had a gray and then it had black where the dude sat, and it was wet. So I had to lay the throttle down a little bit more. Once his right front tire touched the dew, back he went. It was like he dropped anchor. 2 laps later, I had to do it again. I don't know. It was another lap. They threw the checker. They shortened the race because we were past curfew. But I remember when he was coming up behind me, I had to dive to the insides because I knew if he got under me, that was it. I was done. So I just pointed to the passenger side of the car and made him take me on the outside, but he couldn't get by. So that was the only win I ever had down there. I probably spent $50,000 on that car and racing and stuff. But I had a blast. I met Tim Richmond, and I met Richard Petty, and I met Kyle Petty. They all showed up down there. Richard was supposed to drive my car, but the prior Sunday, he hit the wall at Daytona when they were having the tire wars. And he was still real sore. But it was really cool to see him walk up to the car with that big Petty grin.
Yeah. And
he turned his hearing aids down so he couldn't hear anybody. And just for, 30 or 40 seconds, it was 1974 all over for him. It took him back to What's that?
To see the king buy the car that you're driving, I mean, holy cow, Roy.
Yeah. And everybody's car, he was signing in the back window, on the balance panel in the back.
Mm-hmm.
My car, he signed on the C-pillar. And when we changed the body, that was the first thing I cut out. So I've kept that.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to, right?
Yeah. So then when we built a new car, I bought the books from Mother Mopar and followed the instructions. And we built a car that was a dream to drive. That Dad and I built. You went into the corner, and that's all you needed to correct it around the corner. And just ease. Oh my God, it was a dream. But by then, after 6 seasons, the old engine was getting tired. It was a big block, so it lived, but it was getting tired. I think the valve springs were bad, and once it got wound up, it would start skipping and popping. And of course, they outlawed the big block that year, and we had a baby on the way. So, priorities.
Yeah. So if I can ask, how was your standings over your 10 years? Like,
not great.
Middle of the pack, end of the pack, front of the pack?
Middle of the pack at best, yeah.
Okay.
But once we got that car that Dad and I built, I wished I'd done it years and years before.
Right.
The car was just so nice. It made me angry that the engine was skipping and popping, banging. I mean, it was bad. So I figured, well, we're going to try it. I never lifted going into 1 and 2. I never took my foot off the floor from the straightaway. And it went around the corner.
Nice.
And that's all I needed was that flick of the wrist to catch the car. And it worked so well, I kept my foot on the floor and went 3 and 4 that way, and it stuck. But I couldn't stand the sound of the engine. It sounded like it was going to explode.
But what a great experience to build that with your dad.
Yes, absolutely. And I still have the car.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was my question. Is that you still have the car? Wow, very cool.
Yep. Yes, it takes me back when I look at it, and it's a complete car, just like it came off the trailer the last time I raced. Everything's there, carburetor to fuel cell.
Now, Roy, let me share a picture here that we pulled.
Where did you find that?
We found that out on Facebook somewhere, and we dragged it down. Now, this is you, I assume.
Yes, sir.
Sitting in your car. And which car is this?
This is the one after we rebodied it. I tried a different number, see if it would change my luck. A little different paint scheme. That's my ex-girlfriend's son, Timmy, sitting in the car with me.
Well, you got the racing mustache and sideburns.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was probably 84.
Interesting. Yeah, we pulled this up and we were like, is that Roy or is that,
Oh, yeah.
We were trying to figure out who the blondie was on there.
So I want to hear about the wife.
Okay, right. So let's go back to that. I met my wife.
That's quite a story as well. Ex-girlfriend and I split up. I stayed alone for, I don't know, a few months it was actually. And I had a friend of mine, Ray Sears, that was helping me with a race car. And him and his girlfriend, he's a little younger, and they were married. So he asked me to stand up with him. And I did. So my wife at the time lived in Hilton, New York, which is on the other side of Rochester, New York.
Okay.
And the bride's aunt and uncle asked her to come down and help make salads for the wedding reception, and because it was just a family setup deal and not catered, nothing like that. So she came down and they talked her into going to the wedding. Well, she'd just gotten done with a breakup as well. So weren't neither one of us really looking for anything. And she walked in front of me. It was August 26, 89 when we met. They guys went out for a cigarette. I never smoked, but I went out with them. It was hot in the Candor Legion. And this cute little blonde walks by, and I held the door open for her. And she walks down. There's a little alleyway going into the reception hall. Not real long, but it was quite dark. And she had this aura around her, white aura and purple. And she walked in. I turned and looked at my buddy, just got married, and said, I'm going to marry that girl. And that was quite a laugh.
Like that right there.
Like that.
Yeah, it was just, I'm going to marry that girl. I didn't even know her name. I hadn't met her.
You had a
So
coupon.
I see she was on the dance floor with a handsy guy,
Uh-huh.
and she didn't look real happy. So I cut in,
Ooh,
and we spent the rest of the night on the dance floor.
nice move.
Oof.
Look at you, smooth.
And of course, I was respectful because, 4 sisters and a
Yep.
mother that would have whooped me and could.
Yeah.
Her brother, which happened to be the bride's aunt and uncle,
Mhm.
made us get phone numbers so we could contact each other, which I did. And we've been together ever since.
Nice.
We did move in together for a while in the early 90s. From we got married April 6th, 1991. So we just celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary.
Very nice. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Now, I got a little picture here that I stole off the internet too.
Okay.
This is you back here.
Yep.
Is this your wife in the purple, in the standing in the back?
No, that's my sister Ellen.
That's your sister Ellen, okay?
Yep.
And then could you identify these other folks?
Afraid so.
Okay.
Which one do you want to start with?
Well, let's go left to right.
Okay, so on my left, standing in front of me, is my oldest sister, Glenda. Gail in the middle is my next older than me. So it's Glenda, Ellen, and then Vicky.
Okay.
And then Sheila's the youngest, and she was born after me. So there's kind of a...
So this is the 4 sisters you just mentioned.
Yep. Love them
Very
all. Nice. We get along good. Matter of fact, May 5th, we're getting together to have a sibling brunch up in Dryden.
Is everybody still in the area?
Yes, pretty much. Sheila's out by Dryden Lake. Glenda's out on Daisy Hollow Road, which is out where the Cornell farm used to be out there.
Yep.
And that's in Ellen's house, and that's Wood Road. She splits her time between Wood Road and down in Florida. That her and her husband have a place. Vicky lives in the big city of Freeville. So, and I live out on White Church Road. So my kids went to Candor School because I'm a small school guy. But they're all doing quite well. Matter of fact, Glenda is still working.
What year would you guess this picture's taken?
2 Christmases ago.
Okay. You get a little bit fuller beard there.
Yeah, my wife loves beard.
Okay.
My mother hated beard. So for 6 months during the winter when it was cold, I'd grow the beard. And after our wedding anniversary, I'd shave it off so that Mom was happy. And I couldn't stand it in the summer with the heat.
Right.
So,
well, I came home with a beard kind of like this, probably 10 years ago when my dad was still alive. I walk in the front door. He looks at me, and goes, "What are you celebrating?" So anyway, and I was like, "What?" He's like, so anyway, he was never a beard guy.
No, my father wasn't either. He wouldn't have a mustache or nothing. Mom didn't like it, so.
But I'll tell you something, after he moved into the assisted living space up in Rochester, he started growing a beard because he didn't like shaving up there. Finally, in the end, he had a beard too. So, but my mom never was a beard person either.
Well, and that's the thing with me. By the end of the summer, I get tired of shaving, so let her grow. But I can't stand it under my chops.
Yeah, exactly, down here.
Yeah.
Yep.
How's that go again, Dave?
It goes like this. You know what's funny? I saw this thing on, you were supposed to take a selfie with your beard up from below. So you're supposed to go like this. And anyway.
What's that prove?
I don't know. It was a silly way to take a selfie or something like that. But anyway, it was a funny thing.
So tell us about your kids.
All right, yeah. Talk about kids. How many kids you got?
We got 2 girls.
2 girls.
They'll be 30 and 28 this year. So I used to get teased at work by the guys I worked with. The first one can come anytime. It takes 9 months after that. So after we were married for 3 years, we finally had a child. That fooled them. Yeah. And there's quite a story that goes with the girls.
So what year did you get married again?
91.
91. Okay.
I was 29 years old. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but my wife's a little older. She's only 9 months because I've always had a thing for older women.
My wife's older.
Good for you. Yeah, I know. Okay.
Yeah.
My wife just seems old.
And there's a story, Mr. Jackson, with your wife
Oh, here we go.
that I experienced.
Hit me.
I ran over her cat and she was standing there and seen it.
Oh, shut the front door.
Yep. Yep. It sounds like a sad story, but it has a happy ending.
Okay.
This was back when I was racing and working a lot of hours, so everything was hustle. And of course, I wasn't afraid to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I came down Mott Road, made the curve,
Yep.
and I see this cat come running across the road. There weren't no way I was going to stop that truck and trailer. I had the trailer out. Well, I looked in the passenger side mirror and I see the cat go back of the truck wheels in front of the trailer wheels. And I went, oh God. And here's Blanche and her mother standing on beside their yard working on flower beds, and they were just screaming. Nice day. I had the windows down. And I'm
So
like,
this is by the Mott Road Trailer Park.
yes, sir.
So that was where her mom lived. So Blanche must have been there visiting at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was her mom's cat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's
So
much
they
better
both-
story now.
So they both stood there screaming, and I'm like, oh no, this is going to be messy. Well, I'll be danged if that cat didn't come out back of the trailer. He went in front of the trailer tires, came out behind the trailer tires. He was doing about 100 miles an hour. He made a jump from the shoulder of the road, and I think he cleared probably 70 feet. He was just off, never drew a hair, didn't hurt him a bit. Of course, I had to go back and check, and
That's funny.
it is. So I don't know. I don't know if Blanche would remember that or not.
I'll ask her. You think
Cool.
she remembers something that traumatic? You would think.
I would think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your kids doing?
Well, my oldest girl is working for Tompkins County Health Department. Because I stayed at Ithaca College and she got tuition remission for 4 years, that helped her out a lot. And then she went an extra year, got her master's. There's a funny story with her and the race car the night she was born. We were down to race. Actually, both girls.
Yeah. Okay.
Oldest girl, wife was 9 months pregnant, or 8 3/4, and we were at the racetrack, and she was down there with my mother, and she said she was having an awful time up and down the stands and ladies' room and uncomfortable. She comes walking down to the pits, and of course the lights are behind her, so all you can see is her silhouette.
But you knew it was her.
Yeah, her and my mother. My mother was quite nervous, and she says, honey, my water broke. And I said, that ain't funny. She says, I'm not joking. So I got where I could see her, block the light out. And sure enough, her water broke. She was soaking wet from her belly button down.
Oh my God.
It didn't just break, I think it exploded. So we're trying to load the car and load the tools and get things to get out of there. And I hollered at the guys, leave me a path. Well, we're having a baby. Well, there was a lot of hooting and hollering. Congratulations. They left me a path, and I think I was the first one out of the track.
You didn't put her on the lift?
Nah, she was able to walk. So we lived in Candor. So Candor to Owego is about 20 miles. So we went back to Candor and switched cars because I didn't think it was a good idea to take the tools to the hospital down in Johnson City. So we went, and wife said, I think I'd like a wheelchair. So I got her one, wheeled her in. And we got to the station. And the nurse says, what can we do for you? She said, oh, I'm going to have a baby. She said, how do you know? She said, my water broke. Another nurse in the background said, oh, I was at the races tonight, and a woman down there that said that her water broke at the racetrack. Wife looked at her and said, that was me.
See, I got to tell you, I'm impressed, because I thought for sure you were going to, part of the story, you were going to say, honey, we can't go now. The car's running great. I've got one more heat.
All right, I got one more lap.
No, luckily the races are all done.
Honey, we can't right now. You need to hang on.
Yeah. Well, actually could have, because 24 hours, that was about 10:30 when the races were over that night. And oldest girl was born at 10:24 p.m. 24 hours later.
Oh, it took
And I
24
got
hours then.
Wow.
and I got to be there for her birth, and that was great. You know, little kid, and she was funny as a baby. During the day, sun was up. I couldn't do anything to make her happy. She'd howl and cry. So she wanted mom. She wanted mom to take care of her. As soon as the sun went down, mom couldn't do nothing right. She wanted dad.
Oh, all right.
After she was a year old, she wasn't planned. It was oops, but she was only a year early. So about a year later, wife says, "I think I'm pregnant again." And she was. Well, unfortunately, that baby never had a fetal heartbeat. We went for 10 weeks. I knew there was something wrong. As soon as we seen the ultrasound, the baby wasn't moving or nothing. And Emma, Emma always was. And towards the tail end, it was funny to watch Emma because she'd jump on the bladder and she had to take a hold of the umbilical cord and she'd yank on it.
Yeah. Yep.
And but this baby wasn't moving. It looked like a perfect little turtle in there, and we had to have that medically taken care of. And then a year later, second girl come along. I wasn't racing anymore. I had to make a decision: do I feed the race car or do I feed the baby? Well, the baby was louder constantly, so priorities, had to be taken care of. But we'd pull in and I'd listen to him roar. So this night we pulled into the racetrack for about a half hour and I listened to him roar and see what I could see. And because it's an awful addiction. It's the worst addiction that I've ever had. About 4:00 the next morning, wife comes to me. She says, "I think my water broke." Well, she wasn't real wet like she was with Emma, but she was early. So we went to the hospital and sure enough, she was ferning and her water had broke. Of course, it was tough on her. She had to be in the hospital. She had to have intravenous antibiotics. And Olivia was born 6 weeks premature. My wife was in the hospital for 12 days. And that poor woman, every day, she would have labor pains for 12 days.
Wow.
And she would, you were thinking she was having a baby. So every other day she was in labor and delivery. And then every other day she was on the ward with women that were having trouble going the distance. Well, me being an old farm boy, I was at 14, I delivered my first calf, which is a funny story because the farmer, the water hadn't broke on the cow and the front feet were out and she needed help pulling the calf out. So the farmer says, just get a big handful of the water bag and roll your thumb in it till it breaks. He said, but tip your head off to the side because it'll squirt right over your shoulder. Well, I thought he was joking. Big old handful of the water bag. I broke it and I could hear that water go right by my ear. I could literally hear it. And of course, like Slimer and Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So, I knew what was going on, what in nature would do. So back to the hospital story, my youngest girl, she said she was fussing and my wife was fussing and uncomfortable and kind of disturbing the other women because Olivia was born at 6:57 a.m. And she said she had to go to the bathroom. So I helped her get into the bathroom. She said, the baby's coming. And I said, no, you're taking care of business. And she said, the baby's coming. Well, Olivia's head was out just a little bit.
Wow.
I jump up and I run to the nurse's station. Baby's coming now. And run back in. Now, this is a shared bathroom with 3 other women. I dropped down to my knees. By then, Olivia was out, to the middle of her chest or a little more. And the wife says, what do I do? And I said, stand up. And Olivia never moved. Lori stood up and out she popped and she hit her shoulder on the toilet seat, splashed in the water. And before the water could cover her, I just reached in and grabbed her by the ankles and picked her up and held her up behind my wife. So wow. I'm down on my knees. My wife is standing straddling my legs and she's leaning on my shoulders because she's just absolutely exhausted at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm holding baby up till the nurses come in and cut the umbilical. So quite the story for both my girls.
What the hell?
Holy mackerel.
It's been a roller coaster ride for me, I'll tell you. Never a dull moment.
Wow.
That
So-
is amazing.
so- yes, and I'm so glad I was there to be with him.
Oh yeah.
Well,
And so Olivia had spent 8 days in the NIC unit.
Mhm.
She did fine the first 24 hours, struggled after that, and she lost close to a pound before they sent her home. They basically didn't figure she was going to make it. So they sent her home with the excuse that mom could do better. And Olivia's problem was you'd feed her an ounce and she'd burp up a gallon. Now, you literally burped her with a bath towel. So after a couple of weeks, wife figured out that, okay, if I break up the amount I'm feeding her, feed her smaller amounts more often, she's getting the same amount of nutrition in 24 hours.
Yep.
And she was keeping it down. But it took a while. So in Olivia's, she was kind of tough at the beginning, and she's got some health issues. Unfortunately now, poor kid, she was 18. It was March. She was in high school, senior, started having seizures. Developed epilepsy. So we've been fighting that battle for 9 years. And just this year, knock on wood, they finally got the seizures to stop, because what I've learned is there's not just grand mal seizures. I always thought that was it. Well, there's grand mal, there's twitches that are seizures. She has head nod seizures. She can be talking to you and then go right on with the story and never know she had a seizure. The hardest ones on her was the drop seizures, where absolutely no warning that these were coming. And she just goes down in a heap and there's no muscle tone. Well, the poor kid broke her ankles 4 times in 1 year, had to have 3 reconstructive surgeries.
Wow.
Matter of fact, she's healing from a broken foot from her last dropsy. So at work, they told her, go home and don't come back till you get fixed. Then they closed the doors. So she doesn't have a job to go back to. And she's on disability, so it's going to be hard for her to go back to work anyway.
Where was she working?
Burger King. She was slinging hash at Burger King. I like her. I never went to college. She tried it. Wasn't for her. Wasn't for me. By the time I was a senior in high school, I knew I'd had enough of the education department. So she's home, and both girls still live at home. And happy to have them here. And oldest girl has a boyfriend. He's a great kid. Absolutely love him. They travel back and forth. He's in Pennsylvania, near Scranton.
Does he like cars?
No, he's a computer guy.
Can't have everything, Roy.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
I got to do some great work around here. We bought some land on White Church Road. Got about 12 acres. And I worked with my father, and we installed the electric. And it's a double wide, so you have to have a pedestal. So we installed electric. We built a well house, built the forms, leveled the ground, built the forms for this concrete slab for them to put double wide on. Dad showed me a lot of things that luckily I don't forget. And then after a couple of years, we put an addition on. Dad helped us with that, and had some friends help. Howard Havington was one of them to help pour concrete.
Oh, nice.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. Yep. Kidding.
It was something I very much enjoyed working with Dad. Dad was a great hunter. He really enjoyed deer season, hunting big game. He was a hell of a shot. I was usually the dog. I'd go scare him up and trudge through the brush and earn the respect of the other hunters.
Yeah.
And the last 2 deer we got were right down back here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You don't have to go very far to hunt.
No, I can just walk down back and
Very nice.
Somebody cut a tree off. It's just the right height to set on, so that's my tree stand. But I haven't hunted in years since Dad's passed. Great memories, though.
What year did your father pass?
March 21st, 2012.
And how old was he?
84. With Dad, he had emphysema. And he was disabled at 59 from Cornell. He had emphysema, and they told him he couldn't work anymore. And he'd gotten sick and had pneumonia. And they didn't think he was going to live through the night the first time. And doctor was real frank with him. He said, Ken, if you don't quit smoking, you'll be dead in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
You quit smoking right then.
Nice.
And they said, 10 or 12 years, you'd have 10 good years, and then it'd be a downhill run. We got really lucky. He lived 25.
Oh, wow.
He really fooled him. But the last couple of years were rough, kind of housebound, and his lungs would fill, and I'd have to take him to the doctor for that stuff. Because he wasn't a midget. He wasn't quite as big as I am, but he was a pretty good sized fella, so I'm the only one that could handle him.
He wasn't a midget.
But he was
wow.
a really good carpenter. He was a good teacher for bowling. He enjoyed that. He was actually an AJBC certified bowling coach.
Nice.
He helped me with that a lot, and a lot of other kids, junior bowling. One of the things he did that I didn't know till years later, when I was a young man and wanted to be a professional bowler, and I got fairly good at it. Men's, after we got out of high school and got into the adult league, first year wasn't so great. Second year was improved. In the third year, something just clicked. In the third year, I was bowling in the Friday night scratch league with men. I had a 202 average at the end of the year. And at the time, you only needed a 212 average to be on the professional tour. I only bowled one night a week and never practiced.
Yeah.
And this guy kept showing up and talking to me. Well, I found out years later he was a scout for the pros.
Oh, wow.
But back to a car issue. And I ruined it with a car. I had a 69 Dodge Dart that leaf springs were broke, and I was under it trying to get the springs, rear end loose so I could swap springs. And when I rolled out from under the car, it fell off the jack stand, pitched my arm really close to my face.
Roy.
It scared me.
I'll say.
And of course, at that point, I had quite a temper, and could only jack the front tire up. The back end wouldn't come up. So me being the genius I was, and after working on a farm, had my buddy with me, Johnny Hill, if you remember him. I walked to the back of that four-door Dodge Dart, and I grabbed hold of the back bumper, and I snatched it right in the air. He stood jack stands up under it. And
what?
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was rugged. He stood one up, and when he ran around behind me, I could feel my back compress, and I immediately got about a half an inch shorter. Yeah, I herniated about 4 discs.
Oh, my gosh.
They finally figured that out when I tried to get in the Army. I couldn't bend over and touch my knees even.
Oh,
wow.
So I lived for a lot of years in pain, but I worked. I refused to not work. Man's supposed to earn his keep. So I was in the workforce for 44 years from the time I started till the time I became disabled in 2019. Had a flare up with rheumatoid arthritis. And for a month, my wife had to take care of me. I couldn't even feed myself. It was awful. But they've got me on some meds that's got things stabilized, and I do okay. I'm certainly not going to win any foot races. Not that I ever could have.
Well, I gotta say, Roy, I realize this is just a screen, and we're doing this. You look great, man. You look great.
Pretty good. I feel pretty good.
Dude, you look really good, man. So your bowling career ended after the car incident.
Yeah, I went from a 202 average to, I was lucky to have 175 average. I lost my squat at the foul line. I couldn't squat anymore. So it just screwed me all up. I live and learn eventually.
Oh, wow.
I probably still do things that a 62-year-old man shouldn't do.
Well, I think that's all of us. I think that's probably all of us.
Yeah, so when I tried to get in the service, they did an x-ray. It was funny, the doctor that did the x-ray stuck his fingers in my back, and he happened to hit those bulges and herniated discs.
Yeah.
And the pain went away immediately. And it came back just as quick when he moved his hand. So he's the one that figured it out. I got some good physical therapists, was able to continue on working. It was quite a rough struggle for a while, but.
Yeah. What year did you try to go into service?
Must have been 83, I believe.
Okay, early on then.
So early. Okay.
Yeah,
Earlier.
I was 21 and they wouldn't take me, and I didn't want to sign the waiver because if I got hurt and something happened bad where I lost my legs, they wouldn't support me. So
Correct.
figured I had to do something for a living. I missed out on that, but I would like to say thank you very much to anybody that has been in the service, past, present, and in the future. I greatly appreciate their service, and I respect those men and women immensely. So did you?
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. I'd seen your post, so I knew you were in the service. Dad was in the Army, and somewhere there's a family photo of him.
Okay.
At 106, at 6'1" and 127 pounds. It looks like a head and a coat hanger with a uniform on it.
Thank you, coat hanger. That's great.
He was so thin when he was young, and man, could he run.
Wow.
That was one thing I didn't inherit from him.
The running.
Yeah. He said that he run a 100-yard dash in the service with full uniform because he played football for the platoon. He said he 100 or 10-100.
Wow.
So
That's
that's
smoking fast.
getting it.
Yeah, that's hauling the mail.
Yeah. Yes,
Wow.
it is. And he had injured his back at work, and he said he couldn't run anymore, but he could dust me when we were throwing football around one eye. He could dust me like nothing. Whereas I was always all power.
I remember that from bowling. You were power.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Dave, did you and Roy bowl together then?
We did on Saturday mornings in the junior league. Yep.
Yep.
We sure
We had
did.
the same team or same squad or?
No, it's just we were on the same team. We were just on the same league. Do you remember who your team members were, Roy, in the junior league?
Well, I had several. I mean, Mike Aiken was one of them. Ronnie Flynn was one of them. Because there were teams of 4.
Yeah.
I think Jack Lapino was for a while. Johnny Hill bowled with us on a team, but he had some health issues where he had to quit bowling at 14. But that was, by the time I was 21 years old, I had 17 years of league bowling consecutive.
Yeah. No, not to get in this whole bowling tangent, but I'm compelled to, just because I'm talking to one of my old bowling buddies here. I got really good when I went in the military, bowling. Actually, there was 2 things I was getting good at: bass guitar and bowling, literally congruently at the same time.
Nice.
And I had to make it. I mean, I was in leagues like 5 nights a week, and when I was in Alabama, my first base, and I was, this guy got me playing bass guitar, just a couple years before all this happened. But I made a command decision to focus less on the bowling and more on the bass guitar, which turned out to be great, the right thing to do eventually.
Mhm.
But and I bowled all the way until 15 years ago, until I joined Verizon. I was on night shift all the time. I just couldn't do any bowling. I got back into it last year, but I'm on the 205 average right now.
What's that?
On the 205 average this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I haven't had a 300 yet.
I never had a 300.
290.
I've thrown 15 in a row and never had a 300.
But yeah, 2 games. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
6-1.
I've done a few of those too.
Yeah.
I've done a few of those too.
Closest I got was 298.
Yeah, my closest was 290.
I throwed the first 11, and on the last ball, I was off just a little bit because once I got out in the approach and got ready, I realized everybody was paying attention.
Yeah, that
It
sucks.
got real quiet.
Well, that sucks.
And wasn't used to it. Years of bowling with kids and adults and
Rowdiness.
pins.
Yep.
All of a sudden, it's quiet.
Yep.
It threw me off.
So now back to the racing thing real quick before we start talking about school. Who's your NASCAR look up to? Who's your NASCAR icon?
Well, it was Richard Petty.
Was Petty? Okay.
Yes. I loved the looks of that Charger.
Okay, so after he retired, who was it?
Dale Jr.
Dale Jr. All right.
Yeah, I like Dale Jr. And after he retired, there's a couple guys I like: Chase Elliott and Dave Blaney.
All right, hold, keep talking. I'll be right back.
It's losing a lot of its luster.
Oh, funny you mentioned that.
Not crazy about new car, the Gen 7 car that they have now.
I stopped watching NASCAR when the rules changed so drastically, when they started doing the new formats, what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was. I was a NASCAR, he'll tell you, I was a NASCAR nutcake from 98 to, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
This is a picture of me after I got done interviewing Jeff Gordon.
Nice.
I know what you're saying. Jeff Gordon. Yes.
Jeff Gordon.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with Jeff Gordon.
So that was at the Pagoda, or at the track in Pennsylvania. It was a party. I got invited to go to the who was this spot? DuPont party at the top of the Pagoda, and they said Jeff Gordon was going to talk there before the race because DuPont was a sponsor.
Mhm.
And they had to pick a name out of the
Right.
hat. They were going to pick 10 questions out of the hat to ask Jeff the question. And so I put in a little 3x5 card because I wasn't going to do something stupid like say, hey, what did what's your favorite plant or anything stupid like that. So I put on the card, Jeff, what's the latest on the Jeff Gordon Foundation for Children's Leukemia? I was the first card picked.
I was going to say.
We talked for 8 minutes, Roy.
Nice.
And he bowls. We started talking about bowling during the interview because one of his big things to raise money is his bowling charities. Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I didn't know about him. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a big bowler, man.
Now, see, I followed Jeff Gordon a little bit when my wife and I were first together. We'd go up and visit her parents in Rochester, and they had cable. And when he was 13 running the Silver Crown Series, I was watching him, and it was pretty amazing to see that kid run with telephone books sitting on him.
Right. I got one more picture, then we'll talk about school. Keep talking.
Okay.
So here's what I want to show you.
We'll go back to NASCAR for 2 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And who's 90?
That was during the Rusty Wall. That was probably 10 years ago. Hang on, 10 years ago. That was the Rusty Wallach experience that Blanche had got me.
Oh, you went and drove.
Nice.
Yeah. Dude, I missed my calling. I completely missed my calling. After all the races I watched, understood everything about racing, when I got in that car, I had my own spotter, the fire suit, the helmet, the whole schmear. You have a half a day of training, like I needed that.
Yeah.
Thought I did, but dude, when I got done, so it was 10 laps. It was 1 lap, 2 laps under caution, 1 practice lap, and then they just green flagged. It was like 15 cars out there, maybe 18 cars on this track. Guess who smoked the whole field, Roy?
I hope you did, buddy.
And not only was I so good at my spotter, when I got out of the car, the spotter came out and come down to my car. He goes, "Have you done this before?" I said, "Nope. I just knew when the car would stick." And the car was only geared for 3. You only had 3 gears.
Okay.
You could they had it geared. They wouldn't let you go any farther. They're the full 800 horsepower cars, just 3 gears. And yeah, the spotter goes, "Have you noticed what?" No. He says, You might have missed your call." And I'm like, I know. Dude, it was probably it was easily between that and jumping out of an airplane. That was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done as far as sports thing. It was amazing, just amazing.
No, I'd love to do something like that, the Richard Petty experience or something.
Yeah. It was great. It was really great. I'd do it again in a minute. Absolutely.
Well, come on down. They do that out in Charlotte at the Charlotte Speedway.
Yep.
And so you can get that kind of experience there.
I worked with a guy that did the Charlotte with the Petty experience. He was piano technician, and he's got a picture of himself after he got out of the car, and he's just about all teeth.
Yeah.
He was so great. He said that track at Charlotte, he said when you went into the 4th turn, turn 3, he said it looked like a wall in front of you.
Yeah.
He said it was really intimidating. So where did you do your experience?
The track no longer exists. It's a track that's about 45 miles here. It was east of Pittsburgh. The track's not open anymore. It was a 1-mile track. It was pretty much like Dover. The track was almost a duplicate of Dover.
Oh, okay.
And it was
high banked.
Yeah, high banked. It was all totally asphalt track, high banked. They don't race there anymore, but yeah, half a day of training. Then they fitted us for our fire suits and our helmets, and we did it.
Nice.
The one that's down here is VIR, which is the Virginia International Raceway. And
Okay.
that's actually closer than Charlotte is because it's only about an hour and a half, 2 hours up there near Danbury. And so you maybe remember Steve Eggert from high school. He used to come down and race bikes. And so he had a track bike and a high-speed bike and whatnot. And so I've met him there. And my son has gone there with his car to watch and do some time trial stuff, where they open up the track on a weekend and you can take your street car onto the track.
Okay.
They'll give you some pointers and they'll give you some time lapse stuff. So,
and you have to sign about 40 waivers.
40 waivers. That's exactly right. We didn't do it. And we didn't.
Yeah, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I did spend 2 years racing on dirt over to Skyline, a couple summers.
I went to Skyline a lot with the Edmonds twins.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I went over there.
They were there every Saturday night. We went out every Saturday night with them.
I hadn't raced in 10 years and finally got where I could. Worked out a deal. A guy had a car, needed finishing. He needed an engine, so I let him take an engine that I had, and I took his car. First night out, I was pretty happy with myself. Hadn't raced in 10 years, never raced on dirt. And I started in the middle of the field. I started 14th out of 28 cars and finished 7th. First time out.
Wow.
So, I was pretty happy with that. And I wound up, I had a second, third, and fourth over there. The dirt just seemed to come more natural, letting that rear end hang out and steering it with the throttle.
Does that give you back grief?
It didn't at the time. It might now.
Okay.
But what ended me racing over there was caution. I'd passed the guy. Yellow light came on. I took my foot off the throttle. He didn't see the caution and nudged me, got me sideways. And they have those 4-foot Jersey barriers on the backstretch. And about 2 inches down from the top of it, I left my right front tire mark. The car stood up. I thought it was going to roll over. And one of the guys, we had a group of guys that were together helping each other's cars. He said it wasn't good when you can read the roof number out of your passenger side window of somebody's car.
That'd do it.
That'd do it.
But I just stood on the throttle. It was up on one wheel. Stood on the throttle and it corrected itself. It whipped around and came down. But there was a great big hole in the stock frame underneath the upright roll bar behind. I ain't fixing it. I ain't racing that car. It's part of the allure for me was I might get in that race car, but I may never get out of it. The danger.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a fine line between crazy and stupid. Usually I got a foot on each side.
That was the seesaw part.
Yeah.
We usually talk a little bit about Dryden and your experience during high school. And we usually say things like, hey, Roy, did you have a favorite teacher in high school?
Well,
or someone who influenced you?
Well, there were several, but Strug was the one that I liked. He was off the wall, and
yes,
I liked him. Mr. Trumbull, Mr. Shellhammer was one that I really respected. And of course, Roy Simmons.
Yep. Did you take all the shop classes?
Yeah. I enjoy working with my hands, even though they complain, but I still like working with my hands. I don't know. I was just a kid, in school. My box that I thought in was very small at that time.
Well, who was your core group of people then in that box?
Who'd you hang out with?
Shane Bartholomew, Toby B. Kraft. Of course, Johnny Hill and I, we're like brothers. Yeah, him and I are still friends to this day. We probably always will be. And Mike Cutting was the other one. Mm-hmm. And Mike and Johnny are like brothers. Johnny was gone for 40 years. He got in service and wound up in New Mexico. He's back. So we get to see each other tomorrow. We'll have coffee. We get together about once a week and have coffee, and shoot the breeze and talk about the stupid things we used to do as kids. And
always a good thing.
Amazed that we're still alive.
I'm glad that they didn't have YouTube back then, right?
Yes. Stuff that you just can't get away from, you know.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question too. Are you any relation to Sandy Abbey?
She's my cousin
Cousin. Okay.
through my father. Yep. My dad's brother's daughter.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was relation or not.
Yep.
Did you
Yeah,
ever did you ever get in trouble in school?
Me?
Yeah.
One time.
Oh, all right.
My father, I got to figure out how old I was. I must have been 8th, 9th grade, maybe 10th grade. Dad was talking about a story when he was a young man. They had a truck that would travel up and downhill, and it had chains on the back of his truck. And he'd come around a corner and he'd take guys' mirrors off with the chains. So Dad, you know, you can't really get dynamite, and there are other things you can use. I don't know if I should give the whole.
Don't give the recipe. Yeah.
What's that?
Don't give the recipe. Yeah.
We're not sure what the statute of limitations is.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did the same thing he did and made a explosive, an IED, and it went off in my hands during study hall.
In study hall?
Yes, sir.
You took this compound into study hall?
Yeah, everybody had them. Everybody carried them. Anybody that smoked carried them.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Okay.
Which it did. My hands. Boom! It blew my arms.
How big a boom is this?
Most everybody in the study hall, I think some of the tables came right in the air too. I'm just real lucky that nobody got hurt. Everybody had a hearing problem the rest of the day.
Was that in the cafeteria or was it in C13?
Cafeteria. So basically for the rest of the day, I had a dial tone.
Yeah.
And I could see people's lips moving.
Yeah.
I
couldn't see what you're saying, right?
So there was one other student that had some. I wouldn't tell him. I wouldn't tell Mr. Cooper. No, I'm not going to tell you. The only way I'm going to tell you is you got to promise me he does not get in trouble. I'll take the heat for it because it was my idea. But he only used little bitty bolts. So they'd be like a cap gun.
Ah.
Mine went boom.
You went full bolt howitzer.
Well, not compared to what Dad did. It went off. Boy, did it leave a mushroom cloud and a big ring of fire.
What a goof.
Did they have to replace any ceiling tiles?
It was enough that it was like a flashbang bomb. I was stunned for quite a while. I kind of was. Woo.
Did you have to go to the nurse for your hands?
No, it just felt like somebody took a hammer and hit the end of the bolt in my hand. They were sore, but nothing, there's no skin broke or anything.
So no detention, you didn't get suspended?
I think I spent 3 days detention.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And no, the other student, well, I don't know if I should mention his name or not. It's Howard Claflin. But of course, I don't know if you guys seen it. Howard's since passed.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
But Howard never got in trouble. So
wow.
That was my stipulation of telling him they did make him hand over his ammunition.
His ammo.
So
that's impressive.
One of the questions we typically ask our guests in the evening would be to if you had some advice for yourself looking backwards, what advice would you give to your 18, 19-year-old self at Dryden?
Well, it'd be the same advice my father gave me. Learn to push a pencil, not a wheelbarrow.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
So, because all my jobs I ever had were physical.
Physical labor, yep.
Yeah.
Which I never shied away from, and I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, at IC, the furniture mover, I got to work with students during the summer. We'd pack up buildings so they could renovate.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we have stacked desks up. They were 125 pounds piece. You usually use 2 people.
Yeah.
But I could all day long by myself.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we had another big guy on the crew, a little bigger than me. And we used to kind of impress the kids. I'd get a desk and I'd hand it up to him. He'd reach over a rail and just haul it up.
Pull it up.
Yeah.
Another big guy.
Yeah. He was bigger than me.
That's great.
But like I say, I enjoyed that Ithaca College deal. I really did. I'd still be there if I think if the pandemic hadn't gotten me out. But
Yeah.
like I say, disabled. But yeah, I never was really a brainiac. And it's funny now, you look back on it, you remember Schoolhouse Rock on Saturday morning cartoons.
Yes.
If it wasn't for Schoolhouse Rock, I would not have passed English. I'm just now figuring out structure of a sentence. Ain't that terrible?
Well, I mean, if you didn't pick it up the first time around, I mean, Conjunction Junction was an important song.
Yes, it was. Figuring out how to get words and phrases together.
Yeah, that's right.
What's your function? Yep.
Remembering what a noun and verb and
Yep.
you know, it's my kids laugh, but my youngest girl, she still watches it occasionally, gets a giggle out of it.
Yeah.
Because it helped her.
Yeah.
Well, it's those catchy songs, right?
Yep.
You know, that helps you memorize the rules, if you will.
She said she used it in college.
What'd she say?
What'd you say, honey? Yeah, the English teacher she had in college had her use it. It helped her.
There you go.
That's hysterical.
So
I've had college kids in my car when I'll do a trivia question. Every once in a while, I'll throw give me the preamble to the Constitution, and they'll go right straight to that. They'll sing it.
Yep. Yeah.
And
every time.
I've seen that, Dave, and I just love it.
Yeah. Every single time. They'll sing it out. So
it
works.
It does.
Which is why Struglia did it, which is why Mrs. Lieberman did it.
Yes. Yeah.
I still got all those biology songs from Lieberman. Did Struglia sing songs in class? In biology class? Did you take biology class from Struglia?
Yeah. Yeah, he would. In my head.
Yeah.
I would, yeah. Like the bile from the liver emulsifies the fat. I remember that one.
Yep. Yeah. And does it in the small intestinates. The bile from the liver does it. The bile from the liver, and it does it in the small intestinates.
And there's kind of a funny story with Strug too.
Oh,
years later, after wife and I got married,
yeah,
we were talking about school and whatnot, and I was telling my mother-in-law about a crazy teacher we had, Struglia. He was loud and whatnot, and she says, "Struglia," and I said, "Yeah." She said, "Just a minute." So she got her 1952 yearbook. And by God, one of the teachers was Caesar Struglia. She had him as a music teacher in Candor School.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, small world.
It is a small world. Because you remember Struglia used to be out in the hallway in the morning.
Yep.
And a lot of times he'd have a trumpet or some other musical instrument.
Yep.
He'd be rounding up kids down the hall and guiding them and steering them and,
distracting
them and yelling his sayings, right? Remember, kid?
Yep.
What was it? Remember Scouts? You get married, you get a mother-in-law.
Yeah. Truer words have never been spoken right there.
Which was all right with me because I absolutely loved my mother-in-law.
There you go.
That's half the battle right there.
Yes.
It is.
And you almost killed my mother-in-law's cat. So good job, Roy.
Yep. Give her a scare. Anyway.
All right. I got one more picture, and I just want to ask something here. So,
woohoo!
Roy Abbey, senior pitcher here. You had the honor of being the first student in the yearbook listing, as you couldn't get any before AB, right?
Right.
So did that affect you at all in homeroom or in high school or anything like that, being the first student on every roll call?
No, it really only bothered me once,
Uh-huh.
and that was with Coach Foot. Said he was going to go through roll call, and he was getting the paperwork around, and I said here, and he didn't like that because he hadn't called my name yet. But once he called my name, it dawned on him, and
Well, you just preempted him and said here before you even said your name.
It was a preemptive strike, right?
Yep, pretty
That's
much,
great.
because I was always first.
You were always first. See,
Yep.
and being like a Seymour, I was always near the end.
Yep.
And so I had to wait hours sometimes for attendance and name calling and all kinds of things.
That's hysterical.
Oh, and speaking of school and high school and in that, I have managed to save that T-shirt.
No, you did not.
Yes, sir. I
With
wore
all the
it one
names.
time, all the names. I wore it one time, got it washed, and decided that was a cool thing to hang on to.
Man, I
Really?
wish I had thought of that.
So I've still got it. Of course, I've found over the years that when you put clothes in a closet, they shrink.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what happens. Yes. It's a natural effect of a dark closet, clothes shrink. That's correct. Yes.
They do.
Yes. Especially 40 some odd years later. That's true.
Yes.
That's
And
exactly.
I still got my suit and tie that mom and dad bought me for high school graduation.
There you
Shut
go.
up.
I
No, you do
yeah.
not.
I'm really quite sentimental with stuff
Mhm.
that hang on to things that maybe I don't need.
I'm the same way. I do the same thing.
If you like stories, I don't know if
I do.
anybody remembers Bernie Cornelius and those people that had apartments and stuff they rented. Well, when I was a young man, 21-ish, he bought a bunch of dropped bales. The farmer didn't want to go back and pick them up. Whether he didn't have time or manpower or what, I don't know. But Bernie bought them and would throw them in a wagon for him. These hay bales he needed for his horses. Now, Bernie was 6'2", and we'd loaded a hay wagon up to the top of the rack. I was throwing hay bales off the ground. He hired me. I was throwing hay bales off the ground up to him. He said, "Do you think you can go another roll?" Yeah. So I was throwing hay bales up. So I went another roll. He said, "Boy," he says, "I'd like to go one more row. Do you think you can get them up here? I'll stack them." Well, me being me, I come off the ground with that next bale, and Bernie had to reach over his head to catch it.
Wow.
And he's 6'2", standing on top of a 14-foot high hay wagon.
Yeah.
Holy
And
mackerel.
he had to reach to catch the bottom of the bale. So
And a bale weighs about what, 50 pounds, right?
they were about 60, but because Russell Prince always wanted him 75 pounds or better.
Oh.
By the time I was 21, I'd been doing it for a while and really build up and didn't have to pick it up and spin around and get a start. I just picked it off the ground.
You didn't have to.
Just
Roy's
off
like
the ground. Woof, up it went.
Was there a technique to it?
Not for me, there wasn't. I just pick it up by the string and get a hand behind it, both shoulders.
Both shoulders and go, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I threw a few bales at Don Alexander's farm a couple of summers, and I'm not gonna lie, that was some of the hardest shit I've ever done in my life.
No, I enjoyed it. That one year, Russell put a counter on his baler. He baled 22,000 bales, he said.
Hmm.
He told me he was pretty impressed because I handled every one of them at least once.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's at least a couple bales.
Yeah. Of course, because Russell had daughters, and then they weren't real interested in the farm. So in the morning, he'd be cutting hay after we let the cows out. He'd cut hay, and I would rake. And then when things got dry enough, he'd rake, and his wife would bale, and I'd unload.
When you say rake, you mean drive the tractor with the rake?
Yep.
Yep.
And it would rake the hay up into a windrow so you could bale it.
Mhm.
And he'd like to bale 75 pounds. So at 14, it was a struggle. By the time I was 17, it was one in each hand, and I'd walk to the front and load him on the elevator. Give me quite a workout.
Youth.
Youth. That's the one.
Yes. It's wasted on the young.
That's right. Oh, man.
And that's from a quote from a movie, believe it or not.
Yeah, I've seen it. I remember that quote from somewhere.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Classic.
We quote movies around here a lot.
I should have known that because that's one of Pam's favorite movies.
Yeah, you should have, Dave. Where were you on that one?
Well, it was ringing a bell.
It was ringing a bell. That's right. Every time an angel.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right. So, you got any questions for us, Roy? First of all, it's so awesome to talk to you. This has been a wonderful treat, man.
I've been looking forward to this, talking to you guys, seeing you on video.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like 40 plus years we walked off the field.
No.
I mean, it just 3 or 4 years, it seems like. I don't know how it was for you guys, but I remember that first September after we graduated, working on a farm, never went to bus, and I went, oh shit, I'm going to be late. I don't go to school anymore. How was it for you guys?
Because I left so early after school, I didn't have that. The only thing I have is I don't want to say night terrors, but I have really horrible dreams of school where I'm trying to remember my locker combination, either in the hallway or the gym locker, and I'm freaking out because I knew it was my locker, but I couldn't remember the locker combination. I'm like, I have a lot of weird locker dreams. That's really all I got.
Did you spend any time in the lockers, Dave?
No, I did not. Nobody threw me in any lockers or anything like that. No.
I was lucky. I was too big to fit.
Yeah. I was probably too tall.
In the lockers either.
You have any high school dreams, Dave? You have any flashback dreams?
No, I mean, first of all, I enjoyed high school. I enjoyed riding high school. I look back fondly on the fun we had at that time, and
I would agree.
So anyway, yeah, I look back at Dryden fondly. Had a great time going through Dryden High. And if you had to ask me right now what age is in my head, I would say probably 18, 19, 20 in there somewhere. That it doesn't feel like, it's been 40 years later.
No, it does not.
No, not at all.
And to all the classmates that I may have offended or whatever in any way done wrong, I want to apologize. I matured since then and realized the error of my ways, I hope.
No, I don't remember ever you offending anybody.
Yeah, me either.
Except me.
Well, probably, yes.
Well, yes, probably.
Yeah.
But no, I do remember school, and I remember it fondly, and enjoy it and missed a lot of people. I have not seen Shane Bartholomew to graduate. It really is surprising.
Yeah.
I did have a dream about school here, I don't know, a few months ago. We were on a class trip going to Disney, and we were 25-ish.
Did you
and
go
everybody?
Did you go on this trip?
Yes, absolutely. I enjoyed that. In my dream, everybody was having a great time.
Yeah.
We were riding, laughing, joking,
Yep.
Just, it was beautiful to see and we were all young again, my dream. It was great.
Yeah.
The people that I remember, Cheryl Donnelly and Robin Lindley and Kevin Yeager, and just you guys, everybody was there.
There you go.
And we just got along and had a great time.
Well, I'm honored to be part of your dreams, Roy.
That's right. It's not every day that people are dreaming about us.
That's awesome.
That's right. Mr. Seymour,
Yes,
I don't know if you remember this or not, but somewhere in the family photos, there is a picture of me with you riding on my shoulders.
Where's that picture at when we need it?
Oh, I don't know if I could find it. I'm not sure. Maybe my sister has it by chance. I'd have to ask her.
Now I'm going to have to ask, do you remember what the event was?
It was in school. We were horsing around.
Screwing around. I ended up on your shoulders.
I think it was recess. Somebody got a picture of it.
Okay.
It's like grade school?
What?
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been grade school. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
We need to find that picture, Roy.
Yeah, we need some evidence here.
That's your goal. You have homework, Mr. Abbey.
All right.
Homework.
Oh no.
That picture.
That's hysterical. Wow.
I don't have any recollection of that particular incident.
Yeah.
Yep. I forget about it every once in a while. That photo shows up. Oh yeah, Dave.
Really?
Yeah.
That is funny.
It is.
Do you have anything for us, Roy? Do you guys got any questions you want to ask us or curious about or anything like that?
Well, I asked Mr. Seymour about children. What about you? You and Blanche.
So we had 2 kids. AJ was born in 84. Kristen was born in 87. Kristen's 36. AJ would have been 40 this year. We lost AJ 17 years ago now. So yeah, he'd have been 40. I got 4 grandkids. They're all Kristens. 16, 14. Well, actually, she'll be, I might as well say 17. 17, 15, a 5, and a 3.
Wow. I don't have any grandchildren, and I'm very sorry for the loss of your son.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah.
It's the worst thing anybody can go through.
Yeah, it's not a club you want to be in, that's for sure.
No. It was hard on both my wife and I when we lost our child queen, and I can't imagine. I just can't fathom.
Yep.
What it would be to hold a child and then lose them.
Yep. It's a different.
My heart goes out to you.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's a totally different concept in life and time for something like that. I appreciate it. Yeah. So my daughter's family lives right across town. She married a great guy, second time around. Wonderful man. She's doing great. She's a full-time house mom, takes care of the kids, does all the therapies with them, does a little bit of homeschooling. Nice. Great, very proud of her. She's also my fitness trainer now.
I see that she does strange things and wears you out.
Yeah, she did cross training a few years ago, and when she started, after she had her last child, she said, "Well, now it's my turn to take care of myself now." So she got into it, and she started doing cross training, and she would run marathons with me for a time period before her last child was born. She was doing marathons with me, and but now she's just my weightlifter, my weight trainer now. So. I say just. Tires. Yeah, we're flipping tires and ropes and sledgehammers and dumbbells and kettlebells and all that stuff. 5 days a week.
Yep.
So, a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Good. And that's something that I think the world needs more of is stay-at-home parent.
Yeah. No, she was extremely happy to do that. She knew what it was like for me and Blanche. With me being deployed a lot, I was gone probably 5 years of my 20 away from the kids. If you put all my temporary duties together,
right? So
she saw that, and she knew that both those guys working full time. Once they had their 3rd and 4th kid, there was just no way that they could have a successful family. She just said, "I'm not gonna not be around to help these kids." And she just put her hand down and said, "You figure out how to make it work money-wise, and I'll take care of the house and the kids, and we'll make everything work." And so far, so good. No regrets.
Good for her. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Those type of stories I absolutely love.
Yeah. I'm extremely proud of Kristen.
Good. Yeah. Where were you deployed, Dave? Where have you been in the world?
28 countries.
Wow.
All of Eastern Europe, all of Europe. Bunch of stuff in almost all the Pacific, Alaska, Panama, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain.
Where were you living, Dave?
Oh, so my main bases that I actually lived at. I started in Alabama. and Montgomery. Then I went to England, and then from England to Central California to Spain, Spain to Delaware, Delaware to South Carolina, and then back to Delaware. Or from those bases, all over the place.
So there's a family story about service with my brother-in-law, Ellen's husband.
Okay.
The draft was still going on when he just out of high school, and he told me the draft numbers came out Tuesday and Thursday in the Ithaca Journal, and on Tuesday they were like 5 numbers away from his number. So Wednesday he went out and he enlisted. Thursday there was no longer a draft.
Wow. Wow.
But he doesn't regret being in the service. And he was in Germany. And
almost the exact same thing happened to my brother-in-law. Almost the exact same scenario. And he ended up doing 25 years in.
Yeah. Well, my older brother, Steve, graduated Dryden in 73, right at the end of the Vietnam War and stuff like that. And he was on the draft registry, and they stopped, I think, at the R's. And so they right before the S's, right? And so he did not get called up.
Wow.
He was within this far of getting called up.
That's the way George was. And it was funny because when George went through school, he graduated George Thompson. Went to get the paperwork because him and my sister were getting married, went for his birth certificate, and the place it was stored had burnt down. So they had to go back through, and they were having an awful time finding it. Well, come to find out, his last name was actually Shank.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, he was raised and thought he was George Thompson his whole life. And the wedding invitations were sent out. Ellen, Abbey, and George Thompson to get married. When they got
how do you not freak out and think, I have to just regroup and guess? I mean, you have to, it's like starting over again.
Yeah, well, George pretty laid back dude. So when they get to the pulpit to get married, do you George Shank? And everybody in the congregation was because the invitations went out George Thompson.
Oh my gosh.
Hysterical.
It's our families. It's a crazy ride. It's been a wild roller coaster ride, up, down, twist, turns.
Is there an easy story with the Shanks and the Abbeys? Or Thompsons, I guess? Well,
nothing really out of the ordinary. And they met in school and dated and decided to get married. And so, but yeah, it was strange for him. That it was quite a shock. But I do remember things happened real fast after they got the birth certificate, the marriage, and him heading out to boot camp. And we as a kid, I was in 4th grade because it was the year I started wearing glasses, and had Miss Gala, and she's the one that helped recognize I needed glasses. And we went down to Tennessee and seen Ellen and George. He was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So that was kind of a neat trip.
Well, you got anything more for Mr. Abbey there, Dave? Before we let him go for the evening?
I don't think so. Let me just see something here. I'm gonna real quick.
He's got that look on his face like he found something, some nugget.
And the funny thing is, there's a lot of things that I remember. I think I remember all my teachers in grade school. Well, who I had from kindergarten right through.
I remember all mine.
Yeah, so we collected a lot of. You said Mrs. Gailey?
Gala.
Oh, not Miss Gailey in 4th grade.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't see you in this picture. It was a false alarm.
Oh, okay.
Now, so did you spend 1st through 3rd in Dryden Elementary School?
Yep.
Okay, and then
kindergarten right through
K through 3, or it's probably K through 6 then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember the first day of kindergarten. I don't remember who, and that's probably just as well. I remember the First day of kindergarten, one of the girls that we went to school with asked me why I was so fat. I don't remember who it was, and that's probably just as well, but I do remember the question.
Well, I got in trouble. It seems to me I want to say first day of kindergarten because I called Mark Garing a monkey. I said, Mrs. Farron, he looks like a monkey. Look at him. With his hair cut like that, he looks like a monkey. And I got in trouble for that.
So
Roy had a lot of trouble today with that.
Yeah.
Roy, who did you have for 4th, 5th, and 6th then? You had Gayla?
Gayla, Mrs. Ock, and Mrs. Roche. And
Yes.
it
So
may
you
have
know-
been it was probably Miss Walker. When I had her in 5th grade. In 6th grade, she was Mrs. Ock, where it was the other way around.
She changed from Ock to Walker.
Okay.
All
I
right.
had her as Miss Ock, and she was Miss Walker. She got married. Hey,
There's a flashback for you.
There
yes,
you go.
it is.
Now, where are you in this picture?
Oh, let's see. I see him. He's right. He's to the right of Joel Bender.
Yep.
Stripy shirt here?
Yep.
There you
That
go.
was before I realized that stripes make you look fatter
Right.
than vertical lines.
Well, you needed vertical stripes.
Yeah. And that cool white belt.
Look at that white belt. I'd rock that white belt right now. Look at that. Look at. Wow. That's a great picture.
Yes, it is. And I remember I can almost name everybody just by looking at them.
Yeah, so we've got up in the. Are you part of the Facebook group there?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got all the grade school pictures we can find. If you have any that we don't have, we'd love to have them.
God bless everybody that we went to school with, and I wish everybody the best.
Thank you for doing this, Roy.
Roy, thanks for playing along tonight. It was
I
great
have loved
talking
it.
with you. I loved your stories.